everybody as you try to reopen. And let me say thank you to Pierre. I'm very excited about this seminar, so please.
All right, well, thank you everyone for joining here. We got a good number of people. There's a handful of people with their cameras off, which is fine. Just let you guys know, thank you for all being here. So today we have Pierre Costa is joining us. He is based in Napa Valley, and he's got a very interesting and unique mix of experiences and background here, which is perfect for our seminar today on kind of digital marketing. And his background is in marketing, digital marketing, and also in wine. And he's kind of merged those together and has a consulting company called SommDigital. And he works with wineries, groups around the world actually, and teaches at Sonoma State University. And today he's going to kind of be talking about some thinking about digital marketing, and then getting into some nuts and bolts hands-on experience with TripAdvisor. So I'll let Pierre take it from here, introduce himself a little bit more, and teach us everything he knows.
Thank you, Kai, for the brief introduction. So it's a pleasure to talk about wine, especially now educating wineries about the wine business in that aspect, especially the marketing strategy. I'll be delighted to talk about this today. I'm going to start with an overview of digital marketing, where we are today and what the industry is doing. And then we're going to jump into specifically one channel. It's called display. And I'll make a little distinction, but in the future we can talk about other channels, including social media, search can be more nitty-gritty for that. But I think the display is a very good way to reach out to potential customers, especially let's say drive them to the winery instead of just try to sell wine off the bat. So that's where we're going to go today. Just to let you know, I don't want to be a monologue. If you have questions along the way, please stop doing. We have pretty much an hour to do so, or a little bit more. But let's become a conversation, because it's not easy to do a Zoom all the time. Even my MBA students get a little fatigue all the time. So let me just give one overview of who I am. My background, as Kyle mentioned, is very diverse. I work in wineries, in restaurants. So I used to be sommelier for many years, and including star Michelin restaurants in Europe. Did certifications as well as working in digital, especially agencies where we do a lot of this overview of marketing, and also in software companies, which combines all of them. So imagine that you see someone from Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, emails, and go back and forth, watch TV, and you can see then how they end up into your website and purchasing, even afterwards. I did recently, my undergrad, and I did a very interesting course at MIT, where I would say for you guys that you own your data. Please make sure that you can keep it very clean, because if you do, you can do marvelous things about that. So we're doing a lot of research now about predictive modeling, so we can tell even better than the customer itself. We can predict if he or she can buy the wine or not, or if it's just a visitor on the website. So we can do a lot of stuff. So, but this is a conversation for another day. And one thing that I want to start is, when I read this article a few years ago, I've been thinking about how, especially being here in Napa Valley, that we have pretty much a standard. It's very pricey experience. We go average now is across the $50 per tasting. So two couples go for a tasting is minimum $200 plus taxes, plus the wine, the consumption, and the wine in Napa is super expensive as well. So average of Cabernet is about $94 versus $68 on average bottle. So for me is that, and the format is pretty much the same across the valley. When I read this article, I said, how can we make this better, right? I have so much that we can learn with different experiences. So I ask you, my students, so now I didn't mention that I teach marketing at the wine MBA course. So we do a strategic marketing, so how we apply this to specifically wineries, right? And then I ask the undergrad students, what we're doing e-commerce now, is that try to find unique experiences. It's interesting that 1/3 of the class only looking regionally, like California, pretty much it, between Sonoma and Napa, versus the other 2/3 looking to overseas. Drink wine with sharks, great white sharks, skydiving, zip lines and things. So they want to see a completely different experience. Even here in LA, you have a safari to do. So they're trying to go something beyond the sitting down, same tasting, doing their way. But these experiences now we have changed that because wine industry was built only in product. There were specific for that place, but now the whole new consumers, they're looking for experiences. So it's not about buying the wine, it's what happens after that. And this made us rethink about marketing, because marketing is not advertising, to be honest. Advertising is a small piece of the marketing. And if you think about digital marketing, is a slightly different mindset, because if you think about who created digital marketing, it wasn't made by marketeers, but engineers. These marketers, they have the concept, but the engineers built the platforms, right? Google, Facebook, it's pretty much the same. Emails, all of them came. And today, to become more relevant, we have to be authentic, relevant, and transparent. This transparency means, well, we have to share our values and make sure that we get attention. And get attention is so difficult today, right? So many. You see the number of wineries the last 25 years, it grew from not even 2,000, 1,800 wineries to more than 10,000 in US. And at the same time, the distributors went down, so it consolidated quite a lot, so even harder and harder to do. So the option would be sell directly to consumer. And also other things that should change with technology, especially the digital side, is the funnel has flipped. So today, when we buy a wine, the word of mouth doesn't occur the same way it used to have, and that someone chat with you. Sometimes, most of the times, this happens is that you saw a picture on Instagram, and then you say, "Oh, this is look cool," and let's reach out to the person. Oh, where did you buy? How did you do it? So this completely funnel has flipped. So now you get into the people who likes and promote the wine before anything else. So not necessarily an influencer, right? Just to clarify. So this word of mouth has changed, has been very different. So we don't have to follow the same way. So we don't see the funnel the same way, but we see now it's a journey, right? So the sales funnel is the perspective of the sales person, but the customer journey is the customer perspective instead the sale. The customer journey is complex now. A lot of touch points. It's a very high maintenance. So you see the bottom is all the physical touch points where we interact with people versus the digital touch points is on the top. It requires a lot of attention, expertise. It's overwhelming. The question is, do you have to do everything? No, you can't. It's even for a small winery, it's really difficult to do everything. Some of them you can automate today. And this we can talk another time, but you could automate your website to do a few tasks that can take off on your shoulders, and you focus more into promoting the wine, into the story, right? But some mechanical, let's say, tasks, you can do that. And in today, thanks for that, the technology, as get more adopted, the price goes down. Yeah, I'll talk this another time. If I get too excited, please calm me down that I speak too fast. We can do a lot of technology with very affordable ways to do. Okay, let me ask anyone here, how much do you think, for example, this, right, would it cost to make a virtual label. Have you seen the 19 Crimes? We did the virtual label, right? The augmented reality where you put a camera and things comes up. Just by curiosity, how much do you think would it be worth it to do that? This price of technology today. And just bear in mind that this technology is already more than 10 years old, right? There's nothing new. No.
Any ideas and guesses? I'll guess. I'll go $5,000
Per month total.
Oh, good question. I'll say total.
Okay, very good.
I was going to go with like 300 a month, maybe.
Very close, Doug. You can start this for the $100, seriously, a month. So it's something that if you think about, in Napa, it costs less than a bottle of wine, right? Or for them, it would be something that you could maintain and do it. Of course, you don't have to develop an application. So the cost of this, if you have asked this, 5 years ago, yes, could be a $5,000 a month. But the technology gets adopted, the cost drops dramatically. And today, yeah, help us to do a lot of things. The problem is to find where we can buy this, right? What's the requirements to do it? But as we grow, we have more offers to do too. Right? So excellent. So we do have some good ideas.
So
Now,
Pierre, the cost for the tech is low, but somebody still has to do all that content creation.
Yes.
Right, you have to come up with the concept, and then you somebody has to film and write the scripts, and so it isn't just $100 a month to end up with 19 Crimes.
Yeah, in this case, what they did, it was they did a very fancy way. Of course, it's not cost the one. They paid way more than that because they do different ways of interaction. The basic version, yeah, is $100. What I'm talking about is the $100 version is about you scan the label, it plays a video, for example, for you from YouTube. So a video, yes, you can do it on your phone. It can be very simple, doesn't take that much. You do 1 minute video, that's all you need, versus you have to hire a crew to do it. It's going to cost 5-10 grand to do a decent video, right? But today, the technology cost to do that is more affordable. For example, today, even do advertise on TV, right? You always have to go to an agency, right? And things start getting more into self-service platforms where they can help you to do it. And this is much easier. So it gives the voice for everybody to do. That's what Google did and Facebook does. So if you have a little bit of money, enough to do, you don't have to have X, 10, 20 grand to do anything. One example is, would be Waze. Waze, there's two pretty much levels. The basic level, $60 a month to be on Waze. If you want to do any campaign above that, it's $5,000 minimum.
For those that aren't familiar, can you just tell them what Waze is?
Yeah, Waze is a navigation application. It's owned by Google, but they didn't develop the application. It's similar to Google Maps, but is a GPS basically. But every time you stop, you see popping up any traffic light. If you have someone around, this is used for geofencing. You receive an advertising on the app. And Waze, if you haven't done it, please download that one. It's something just for you to see how it is. You also can enhance your profile, so it gives more details who you are. And this is the basic thing they do. Google separates them because one, they didn't develop, but they want to be the differentiation between the map is the Waze is a navigation tool, so you do for driving, whereas the Google Maps still a map used for navigation, but the main purpose is a map to give more information on that point. Because even advertising is different from between both platforms. Okay. Let me know if you have more questions. Excellent, Doug. Thanks. Now, what I'm going to give you is an overview of what the margins today across everyone, right? It's not only about the wine industry, it's about the entire world and where we fit in today. This being a struggle for the wine industry because we always work in a certain ways, and then we forget that there are more things to be done. It's overwhelming, but we have to know where we're going. Right? So this is Robbie King. He works for McKinsey today. He used to be the CIO from Coca-Cola. And he put the 4 decades of engagement where we used to be and where we are now. So in the 80s, we had single message. They would go for everything. You have like the Coca-Cola, same advertising you see on the TV, you see in the radio, everywhere, the same pictures, probably the Michael Jackson and so all the ads he had. But and then the 90s, it starts segmenting that one. So, well, we don't have to treat everyone in the same way. We can treat this group based on this profile. We give them some wine. So this wine snobs, we do this advertising for more luxury wine. Soccer moms go this. The younger generation, the women wants to party is another one. So you can segment based on consumer behavior, that in this case purchases, fast purchases. It'll be one way of doing that. But and then 10 years later, another decade, start customizing that with more adoption with the internet. This customization will be, well, besides this group, we already segment them, but we can customize for these people inside them, meaning that you've probably seen this more into related products. Who bought this also bought this, this, this. So meaning that you trigger to, well, you have a high probability to buy this too, because it's customized for them. And more you see the people buying behavior, you can customize for that and specifically individual. And today we call this social link. So the advertising big companies, they know it's not social media, right? Social linked, meaning that don't look at the individual, but the relationship between them with the other individuals, like your family, friends. They tend to behave similarly to you. We call this academic term, it's called homophily. So birds of a feather flock together, meaning that if you have friends, tends to have similar tastes, could be music, books, movies that you share, things that you try to have similar things. What they do in the marketing, try to understand, identify them, and target them based on that behavior, of that interaction between them. So in a nutshell is that they don't go after the customer, but the friends of the customers that's similar to that. So it's like the referral program, right? And then when we talk in the wine industry, they're very focused on segmentation. Of course, to do social linked and customization, you do have to start with segmentation, but you don't have to stick to that, right? This is just the first step, and then we do more and more. The taking here is that if you only do segmentation, yes, we're more than 30 years old now. It's getting 40 now, right? Into this. And the data also we looked into is not purely demographics. It's not about gender and age or income. There's more things to the pile. So when you guys have anyone who give you, for example, an email at the winery, why this companies like Google, Facebook, they're so more powerful today because they can retract everything about this customers. For example, Google to do an SEO, when you look at the website, they don't look a few points. It's more than 200 different variables they're looking into. So it's very difficult to predict SEO because of that. But if you understand more or less what they want to achieve, we can modify a few things, but not all. And so what I'm saying this is because it helps us to not only understand the customer online, but also the ones comes to your winery. I give one example that I work with a small winery in Napa, and we look into the wine club they had versus the data that they have for people who walks into the buying wines on a tasting room. So compare the online sales, wine club sales, and winery sales combined. So we're looking into gender, our judgment was based on the first name, probability-wise, how to do. We couldn't determine, we excluded, and then we look into gender and income and a little bit more behavior. So people is the first time at the winery, and pretty much it, or the first time they buy, that's it. I didn't look at repeated purchases. So we could have determined then, we can do this, it's more specific another day, the correlation between age and gender. So we saw the younger women, they said, oh, they don't buy wines from us, but they bought online. So in the buy, every time they come the first time, they tend to buy online afterwards. So there's the correlation. And the women, just for this winery, so you cannot generalize. So you're going to be a different behavior that one. And the men would be to have a higher probability to, if above 50 years old, have about more than 60% chance to become a wine club member than to buy wine at first. So when it comes to the tasting room, so we gave to this information to the staff that if it's a lady that lower than 40 years old, offer her a discount or free shipping from the first purchase, for example, if they're hesitant to buy or if they do something else, offer them to buy wine as older gentlemen that would be more willing to get into wine club. Just by segmentation, understand the data. So this was the behavior already happening. We just making sure that the staff on the floor would understand that too. Of course, online we did all the stuff, but this is just on a top level for you to understand that when you're looking into purchase behaviors, age, where they're from, and how they interact can give us way more insight than try to ask, interview them to ask anything. So I took this basic segmentation. This is from Wine Intelligence. That varies for depending on the market you work. If it's a cheaper wine or luxury wine, can be slightly different. But they segment in 6 different personas, basically. And the profile divided by which kind of profile. So I put even the link here if you want to see more of the report. I think they just launched a new one last year, but I haven't purchased them. But the idea here is that before we start selling, we have to understand who you're selling to. Okay? And this makes a huge difference because if you don't understand the persona, that's when we waste money. We try to sell wine to people that we have sometimes an idea and the data is telling completely different. For example, another winery I had was exactly the same thing. The guy said, women don't buy wine at the winery. And then when they look online, they bought everything online. They're the #1 customer they had, 25 to 45. Because the whole gap was the highest sold online. Because I said, so you have to understand their behavior, where they buy. If they prefer, because they don't want to carry the wine, they rather be shipped is one thing. But what if they perhaps is a bargain hunter? They just want a little more discount. So you have, look, it's 26% of the market, sort of. Yours might be different. For example, I had an Italian Brunello di Montalcino customer. We came to me through Google, believe it or not. They found me, and we talked about how to segment the part, but they said, well, 90% of customer is American. So we don't have locals. It's all US. We depended pretty much 100% on visitors here. With the pandemic, we have nothing. So for them, what would be the solution for them? How they target us? So, well, you can target exactly because they said we can ship to US directly. And that would be the strategy for them. Understand who they are, where they come from. So look at the database. So if you already have, or even look at the Google Analytics, can give us some ideas where the most of it. So we don't have to do everything, right? You have 2 customers in Kansas. So it's really difficult to see versus the ones you have more in California or New York or Florida, for example. That tends to be normally the biggest states because it has normally the behavior is more like that. And just to put it, the persona never going to be perfect, right? You can have 10 different personas who buys your wine, but you have to start with one. Pick one. Normally, it's the ideal customer you have. May not be the same. For example, if we get a persona who drives a Tesla, right? You can say, oh, it's male, 30 years old, lives in Silicon Valley, works in tech. Does 100% of the people who owns a Tesla, it's a male who works in Silicon Valley? No. But that's the profile that normally they have. I'm here surrounded by everyone. We just moved to Danville a few months ago. And here is pretty much like a parking lot of Teslas. But you see everyone. Different backgrounds, different ages, different colors, everything. But what's the ideal customer for them? They have one goal, is one that sometimes is not necessarily the same. So people buy the same product for different reasons. Understand what the reason, you can get the better. So I give an example now. Take one, I got the Engaged Explorers. Now, so it's a little less. If you go back to the, here is this guy here, so it's only 10%. So it's one of the smallest group, but normally 25 to 44, spend a while, know what they're buying, but they're seeking opportunities to buy a wine experience. So they want to go wine experiences. Right? These are the guys who probably dive with the sharks to drink wine, that too. Zip line and tasting, right? Wine tasting. But the strategy always has to be two things, because and that's what the wineries struggle. They don't know who they're selling to, and they don't know what the mission statement they are. And believe me, this sounds kind of ridiculous, but it happens all the time. If they ask you, what are you making wine for? What's the mission? So I took this, invited Michael Baum, he's owner of the Viva. He spoke to my MBA class because he came from tech. He's not a winemaker, but he built Vivant. It's he lives in Burgundy now. I think his wife is French. That's why he moved that one. But he does, the concept for them is always about make it sustainable, organic, biodynamic wines, which we give you back. So try to be clean of no pesticides, anything, mostly natural, not natural wines, but it's in a way that is clean of pesticides for any other way, right? And I was trying to be more concise on this. So if you take that, is everyone who is conscious about that? Probably not. But probably his customers is the one who goes to Whole Foods, for example, because they eat more organic, they go do some activities. So if you have this idea, it helps you to build, you don't want everybody, you want to very focus. Think about the social LinkedIn one. You want to have this guy and their friends. That's what you have to target. Don't worry about the rest. The one is too expensive, they're not going to be appreciating how much you are good at for them or not. All right. And then to achieve this, guys, we have so many channels to do it. Now, search can be organic and paid, display, social media, videos, email, mobile, voice. It's overwhelming. You can't do it all. You could, but it's expensive. And it takes a lot of time, effort. I'd say that search is excellent if you have a very good, well-known brand, or if you're already selling for a while. You have a little more reputation, but if you start still on a small scale, it's not going to do that much effort for you. You have to build this kind of search, especially organic versus social media, they complement each other. In this case, display can spread the word for you. So when we talk about broadcasting, that's display normally do. If you're familiar with that, you see this quite often. Every time you read Forbes articles on it, pops ads all the time, right? These are normally the displays. So today I chose TripAdvisor for two reasons. One, it's extremely easy to set up. And second, is to bring the idea here, we're trying to bring people who's looking for, go for a holiday. It could be locals, or it could be someone that normally comes, for example, California, New York, Florida. People tends to go to Colorado, And when they come, they're planning their visit. That's what we're going to get them. Don't wait until they get to Colorado. So the expectations are built. And that was one thing we discuss a lot of Napa Valley vintners. The wineries at Napa, they always count as people who walk in through the tasting room. They forget about all they have done online, all the research, all the pictures they saw, all the TripAdvisor, all the Yelp reviews they read. So the expectations is the higher expectation you have, more deception you're gonna have. So if you build right, get them from the beginning, you avoid all of this, okay? And display for us to see, I just put some benchmarks. So search, you expect to have about 2% of the paid search, not organic. Organic, you don't have control. But paid search is about 2% you should have for your ads. So if you have lower than that, you should be thinking about, or if you have higher than that, you do a very good job. Right? This is an average benchmark. Display is less than 1%, much less, but people see that often, interact less, but it does have some effects. So we call, we have for display a metric called view to conversion. A lot of people see the ads, they don't click into that, but end up converting that. It's like you pass into a billboard every day, never buy. And then when we go, oh yeah, let's buy a rosé wine, and clicks that in your head. So that's exactly the same purpose what display normally does. And then at the end, the conversion rate, you should expect to have, this is an average, right? 2.3%. For the wine industry, seems to be high, and it is, but at least 1% should be good enough for you. 1% is kind of reasonable for them. 2 is aiming high. If you're very good at this, excellent, you're doing an outstanding job. But less than 1%, you should think about where the problem is. Because something is going on. You can look into Google Analytics and start to figure out that. I put some of the links we need today, so you're going to receive this a PDF at the end of this presentation. So I'll send it to Kyle to send to you guys, but I put all the URLs, so don't worry about that. We're going to go to the practical session now. But I want to make sure we have all the tools today. Any questions there? So I want to be starting on this. So I'm just going to put it the best practice when we see these ads. So these are the ones we're talking about now. Have clear pictures, no more than 20% of text, so small little ones. Font should be about 11. I'll give more detail. And always call to action. Meaning that every time you have this is a call to action, like explore now, planning your getaway. But if you don't have anything, people, don't take me wrong, people are down, they don't know what to do, right? Unfortunately, the entire digital marketing that always has call to action. You have to ask people, learn more, do now. It doesn't have to be click here, but shop now, buy now, makes a difference. If you don't believe me, there is a study that they did a Black & Decker between the word buy and shop. They tested. For Black & Decker, for that period of time, the word buy had a 17% more clicks than shop. One word. So when you do this call to action, it does make an effect on people. Tell them what to do. Imagine today we're so easily distracted, right? See an ad, oh yes, what I was doing again? Go back to Facebook and then, oh no, I have to finish the spreadsheet. And realize half day is gone and you haven't finished. And here's some photography shots, but I'll go into the cool part now. Let's see if this here. Any questions so far? All right. So TripAdvisor, you can directly go from that. So it's TripAdvisorMediaManager.com. You can create an account if you don't have one. I created mine. Let me see here. You can be an agency. Already logged in, that's why. Have to log out to log in again. But you can create as agency or log out, log in again. Directed by advertiser could be you, that's the winery, or agency like me. Once you create that, agree for the terms and conditions, always they do, US. This is just a basic registration. It doesn't require to have a TripAdvisor account. You don't need to have one. But let me see if I can get here. Oh, mine. I registered at an agency, so the process is exactly the same. The only difference, they know if you are doing for many people or if you're doing for yourself, basically. I registered a new client because I put a dummy one just for us to play today, but a very simple name, the industry we have. Look at that, wine, beer, liquor, always the same. Put a name. SommDigital, for example. Email is not required. And here you go. Just put a test on it. And then the client is created. In this case, I'm going to create a new ad campaign. But I created one that's called Colorado Vino, just for us today, right? Let's put it here. Yeah. So then I start a campaign where I'm going to select what we want to achieve. So bear in mind, this is already know what you're selling to, so what the idea is. And then we do who you want to target as well. So let's say we do, we want to target people who's visiting. You can do local, so who's in Colorado wants to visit the wines in Colorado, or who also, you can target people who's coming to Colorado to go on a visit, right? I'm going to put a local Colorado TripAdvisor. I'm going to do for May 2021, for example. Just a name, it doesn't matter. It's just for the system understand what you do. It is as easy as well for you to come back and check. Here's the trick. Can you do display or desktop and mobile at the same time? Yes, but they force you to do two different campaigns. What's the problem? That the minimum requirement for both, you have to have a minimum $500 each. But not $500 per month, but $500 for the amount of the time you're going to spend. So you could spread that in 3 months. You could spread in 6 months. You could spread in 1 month only, or even a few weeks. But you would have to think about which one you want to do. The question is, I had this with a customer. They said, "Oh, we think that people just check the mobile before." And when we did the difference between targeting, the amount of impressions available was identical, was 50-50 split from here in California, was for Amador County. Of course, it changes because more high demand, more look into close to the summer, the number of impressions goes up. But you don't pay here for click, you're gonna pay for impressions. So for 1,000 impressions, you have to pay X amount. Because display doesn't make sense to charge as a click because rarely has clicks. But the idea is to give it your visual all the time. So you see, Google is only text, doesn't give it the flair of nice pictures, you know, the wine pouring, the little animation, doesn't give it that. It's very efficient for sale because there's a different intent for that. And this one with distracting people to who's planning your trip. If you think of the people who's planning the trip, they plan on desktop, let's start with desktop then. If you're not sure, always do it differently because mobile is going to be only one type of ad, whereas desktop, you have 3 different types. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, let's put a TripAdvisor And let's put visit Colorado. See if we can show the tons of ads. So where this advertiser is going to show before we start the campaign, so you know where exactly we're talking about. So these ads should appear on the page. Let's pick one. I don't see anyone here yet. Always appears on a button or specific page. Here, here's one ad. So this is one of them, shows up. Normally appears more when you go inside one specific page, appears more evident on this. So these ads, here goes loading. Here you go, this is one of them, Linda G. So this is one impression for them. And here you go, another one. Took a few seconds, but it shows up. So I have two ads on that. How effective it is. The funny part is that endless times we talk in agencies, right? Where we talk to the customer, they say, well, but I never click on that. So not you, because you're not the customer you're looking for. You are the owner of the place. Are you identical your persona? Did you make the product just for yourself? You're doing for everyone. So the people who actually interact quite a lot. So we see the people, oh yeah, I didn't see anything specifically for that because Napa, look, 3 ads, VRBO, look at that. Even they advertise here. So if I click on that, driving to VRBO, a specific page, how to do it. In this case, it would be your winery. But I've seen this here. Keep going, scrolling. We're still planning, right? Eventually appears another one here. Or not. So this parts of TripAdvisor, what they do, look, I didn't refresh the page, already changed the ad, right? They have one expectation that how many impressions the people are gonna be during the month, and they leave that option for us to do. And let's start with desktop, okay? So we know where the ad's gonna be placed. We know we're choosing desktop. And the targeting options, see if I'm sharing the right one. Yeah, that's the one. We have several ways of doing it. So you can do behavior targeting, that's really cool. You can do a destination retargeting, meaning that this, you're gonna keep showing back. Retargeting is that's the ad that they keep following you all the time. That's more towards sales and tends to be more closure. But the fact that we're trying to just bring in people first, you can do 2 different campaigns. You can do one to promote and one to retarget them. So one to show them first, one they landed in your website, and then the retargeting keeps showing back for you to try to then to make sure they book a tasting, for example. And country destinations, in this case for us, would be state destinations or behavior, because city would be very specific, it wouldn't be the winery, right? Let's start with the behavioral targeting, because this is the fun one. I think that the behavioral is when you start getting to know your customer really well, because we can target them in different ways of the behavior they have. And here shows the different size of the ads, look at that. So I can do the big one, so it's kind of almost half page. We can do the little square one, and then we can do the little mobile one that's just the little bar on that. And you don't have to restrict all of them. So you can use one if you want. If you're only happy with that, you can just do one. And I will teach you how to do this now and do the second one. So now let's start with the behavior one. So just behavior and do desktop impressions. So this is going to be how much I want to pay for that, right? Let's start already anticipate for you that they won't give you less than $500. So if you do $300, it's going to be 20,000 impressions from me, right? Based on, and pay $15 for each 1,000 times that, yeah, makes sense, 20,000. And here is the secret. So if I want to do for 1 month, let's say May, make sure that the right time zone. I can do Pacific, it should be fine, for example. If I want to spend, let's say this 500, give 33,000 impressions, but instead in 1 month, I can do in 3 months or 2 months. So it'll be average $250, right, per month. And then you can book straight away. And then here it goes. So visit location. So the location is that where they are. So I want to do Colorado. Everyone who's on that, Colorado State, they allow me the county in Texas. That's not what I want. Or the Colorado Springs, Pueblo. There's only these 3 options for them. So let's put everyone who's in Colorado. You could extend, for example, people from California or other specific owner, or for example, if you have specifically that one from San Francisco Bay Area, would you do that too? Unfortunately, the options is only what they give you to you because they locked based on what they can give you based on the availability of information. Let's put maybe Texas, people who come from there, right? Just put this one and I'll do. And behavior, now it's the fun. So wine, we have people who likes winery attraction travelers. I can do adventure attraction travelers. I can put a weekend. And I have tons and tons of how we're gonna do. So people who are gonna be long travelers, weekdays. Let's see. Bed and breakfast. So I can target the way we think it is. This case, let me keep it very clean. Just the winery, just to see the minimum of the minimum, what's out there, right? At this point, I'm not gonna worry about the creative. We do this in a few minutes. I just wanna check how much availability in these 2 months, the amount of impressions. I want to know who is in Colorado and Texas to be enough. So I want to buy 33,000 impressions, but have 413,000 available. So it's less than 10%. Let's see if we can get rid of Texas and check again. So see only Colorado. These 2 months, see how many of them, how many I can achieve this 5 months. Much better, look at that. So in Colorado, this 2 months gonna be 68,000, and I'm gonna buy 33,000 of that. So every 2 prints out, one's gonna be yours. It's a better deal. For example, if I do look only Colorado, right? So if I do for only the month of May, might be less. Let's put just a month. Check again. They give an estimation. Yeah, it's pretty much I'm gonna have every single impression in 1 month. So if I spend $500 for only people in Colorado who's searching for wineries and the weekends, or for example, more I add into this, let's say the weekend, longer weekend travelers, adventure attractions people, then we can play with this. That's it. Let's see if it's changing much. I don't think it will. Maybe 10,000 more. Oh yeah, way more. Look at that. That goes off. So targeting the right people, that makes a difference for you. Because the profile they identify, maybe the attraction travelers is the biggest one. And you can keep playing around to see how much you're comfortable with that. So you want to be just a tiny fraction. Look at that, that was the big one. Because well, look, I added that one more than 4 times they had, because longer weekend travel is a lot. So, because if you think that another wineries are doing the same, they'll be different. But how do we create the ads ourselves, right? So these are the 3 standard size, and that's what we're going to show how to do that in Canvas. This is the bigger one. Here they have some best practices where to give a little bit ideas now. You have to always call to action, small text, logo. So that's always the same structure, never changes. But when you're not to do, there's too much, the picture fuzzy, I can see what it is, the font too small. So to give us some ideas how we put it on for you guys to see it. They even give us some colors if you want to be very picky about which color you want to do. And they tend to ask you to not, don't need to buy pictures, right? You can take it yourself. Today with the iPhone camera, it's very easy to do. It doesn't have to be that complicated. And to be honest, you have some settings today on the iPhone camera that is very easy to do some portrait, some little blur on the back. Doesn't require that much expertise. So for that, I'm gonna change this to this guy. Are you guys familiar with Canva.com? Anyone here never used before? Les, Gracie, nope. So think of Canva is basically a Photoshop in a very small version, right? It's a very simple version of to do what Photoshop can do. A very simplified version, but it's very easy. So if you don't have much, even for me, I don't like to spend much time in Photoshop. Probably I'm rusty now in Photoshop. I'd rather do something especially quick to do that, especially test a few things. I'd rather use a free version of Canvas. I do subscribe. I do because I wanted some little filters they do, like remove background. It cost me, I think it's $15 a month. Because I use a lot of for the university as well. So I did the 3 sizes of that. So when you customize the size, you can literally go back and look what the size are. So you have a 300 by 250, 3 to 60. So when you click that one, they already create the exact size you need. And if you're even not sure what you want to do, look at this. They give us a lot of templates that you can just literally drag and drop. If you're not sure, you can play around and change it for that. Right? Already does. So for me, I did a few of them. So this is the structure, logo, call to action, and a picture of that. Tends to have less than 20% text. So for example, this is one winery, we did an ad for them. We're using this picture. Just put about 20% of that, simple as that. So you can add text. So great one, great food. It was a great food, great one. Oops. So whatever you want to do, it's very simple because and then all you download, I normally recommend for that JPEG, it's a smaller version, but it could even eventually create as a GIF. I want to see in the next one. So the leaderboard is that one. This is normally used for cell phones that the mobile. So then there's going to be much smaller version. Has to be a little bit more focus on what you want to do, the message. But never forget, one, call to action, picture that. It tends to be, we normally do dividing in thirds to help you to do between separate, especially when you don't have the background, the logo with call to action, and then give it a simple that. When or to say you can upload your own media from your files. You can do it from Facebook if you want, Instagram, Google Drive. It's much, much easier. So if you have the picture, you don't have to pay for them. For example, that. Literally drag and drop. So, and the last one is the media. This one I put on purpose that, look, always don't forget the logo because people recognize you for that. Book now or learn more. And this one is one that they put a video on it. So if you do videos do less than 6 seconds, 3 will be ideal. And this animation can be exported into GIF, where you download the specific on it. But the problem is the GIF can be too heavy. And then I know you're going to ask, so how can I upload that one? I'm glad you asked. We have one, if the picture is too big, so it's timepng.com. Literally reduce the size of the file without losing much the resolution. So that's how it helps you to upload that on the platform. And for the GIF, you can put it then on presentation. So it's this one here. So basically choose the file, or if you have a URL on your website, you upload, and you have to ask how much you want to lose compression. Because of course, if the size is too big, you compress too much, you lose the resolution, gets a little more kind of Minecraft look. But if you're very close to what they request, if I'm not mistaken, is, let's see here. Oops, where was it? Did they close them? No, it's here. Sorry, I just changed the pages. This guy here. So if the size is too big, what do? You just compress them a little bit. Let's get one just for us to see it. This one should be good. So I do in JPEG. Page 2 should do it. So I download that. And I'm gonna upload the image from my download. There you go. So then, can you guys see it? Yeah, you do. So you get that. You could change, but that's the beauty of to have actually the format right. As a good practice, tend to put a 1 pixel border, black border, so it's always handy to use because sometimes it's difficult to see on a website. So that helps you to get the more visual on that. Let's say save that one. And how do you build the URL? So how do we know this coming from TripAdvisor? Well, that comes into, show the screen now. Google URL Builder. So the URL, what we're gonna do is that we're gonna attach, we call this some parameters. So we know, so we tell Google Analytics where they're coming from, right? So this Google develops is on the presentation, so don't have to worry about. So I put the Colorado wine, for example, where we are. And then I want to put which source I'm looking for. So this normally a reference could be Google, newsletter. I put a TripAdvisor, for example. Because it's not cost per click or burner email, I put a paid, but it could be CPM, cost per 1,000, right? And then for each ad that you do, I recommend it to do slightly different. So I put the campaign name TripAdvisor. You can put version A, and then you can do version B, version C, whatever you want to do, or 12. It's just for you to have an idea. They are different. So then you know exactly which ad, if someone clicks, eventually comes to your winery. So and then here on the bottom, you can copy the URL. Once you copy that one, you're gonna do, you paste this guy here. And that's it. So meaning that, how does it look like in Google Analytics now? So let me just finalize this before we do it. So I have one ad. Can we see that? So I have one ad, just one creative. That's totally fine. 33,000 impressions. I have 146. Let's see if we can get rid of that. Just want to wine people that same volume. And I get the max of the max just to ensure it's totally fine. So yeah, I'm gonna have 33,000 impressions. You see, it's already changed. It was 42,000, right? So it's dynamic. And I'm gonna add to cart because it's gonna be, look at that. I'm gonna pay $15 per 1,000 impressions. I'm gonna spend $500 and the whole period of May. I'm gonna add to cart. So I had one that I put a 400 here just to see. This is another example. I was working into TripAdvisor summer. So this one, I can look back, preview that one, but I'm gonna preview, yeah, this go back to exactly what we saw. Gives a summary on this. Yes, how many creatives I had, what's the size they are in a draft. There's nothing there. Go back to shopping cart. But let me edit this guy here so you to see if you have $400, what does that happen? What the system blocks you on that. So when I save, and try to process, I don't have any ad on it. Save as an example. No, because I have the 500, it won't allow you to do it. So if I remove that one. So if I have a 3 or 4 campaigns, right, and the total is 500, that's why you're okay. So you can do $100 in desktop, $300 in mobile, and then you do one with different targeting. So all combined in one go should be 500. Let's see here. For save. Is it okay, guys? You're really quiet. Or you guys nailing on everything, or just going over your head? Check again. Yeah, went up a little bit. Ooh. Yeah, check. Didn't change. It gives us a note. They cannot do more than. Sorry about that. Just taking. Should save. Form, you have highlighted. Not allowing you to change. Well, I guess when you put 500, it is 500. When did they do? It appears a note here say the minimum is $500 for them. And then my recommendation, yes, do at least one with 2, and you literally put a credit card in this, and that does run for you. I'll give one example of reports, what I have for a client. Oops. So this is the one we did a test for a customer that comes in the last 30 days. We've been running for these guys for this month. We got 29,000 impressions. We bought 33,000, 17 clicks, so very low. But for them, each click is very good because these people tend to have a high conversion on the wine club for them. So they don't measure into, oh, we didn't get any money on that. No, let me show on the Google Analytics. That should be a screen. Yeah. Can you see the Google Analytics? So in the Google Analytics, when I go into, I log in into Google Analytics acquisition and I go traffic and channels, I can see by source median, because I put the URL tracker, that one, it gives me exactly the TripAdvisor CPM one I was looking for. So for these guys, I looked the period, you see, it gave me 10 users instead of 17. There's always discrepancies between that. Google Analytics is never going to be precise. Well, you lost a few of them. Some of them might be attributed to organic or direct. Okay. Because, for example, if you see that in a browser like Safari or DuckDuckGo, for example, it doesn't allow cookies, it blocks a little bit. But for example, with these guys, they spend a very quick time, like 12 seconds, very small. But she told me that got one for them when it comes to the tasting room. Oh, where did you hear about this? Once at TripAdvisor. Inside a wine club, for them is worth $600, not a single sale. So for them, they always look into what's the prospect they're going to be, how long they're going to stay with us instead of doing. And this also brings a lot of people to the wine tasting on that for them. So it takes a while. My recommendation that if you do only once, it's difficult to measure, ideally to do 3 months. That. So if you want to, okay, I have $1,000, but I spread in 3 months doing the same thing. I know how many impressions can I have, $300 a month. Give us a good overview for you to measure if it's efficient or not. Especially when you have a very close that one, that where you only look for people who's looking for the wineries, helps you to be more narrow. But if you think it's too narrow, try to open up a little bit. Airbnb, maybe in a bed and breakfast, something that you probably know your customer than anyone, as you know already, conversation. If you're not too sure, I would recommend, do a simple Survey Monkey would help you to do it. Simple, no more than 5 questions. Very simple for them. They normally, all you need is the few feedbacks. 30 answers is more than enough. And that gives us an idea. Yes, now you're going to the right direction. They like to watch Netflix, but it doesn't help you anything, right? But if they prefer, because why TripAdvisor, no Yelp? Because they have a different profiles. People who go to TripAdvisor, they're very more travel. They know their stuff. They're more conscious about reviewing hotels and restaurants, where Yelp is more about if you look into services, and people more and more to lash out when they don't like something. They go first to Yelp, not TripAdvisor, right? If they don't like something. And then sometimes you see McDonald's has 4.5 out of 5, versus TripAdvisor, you don't have that often. Correct. So TripAdvisor is people more traveled, they're very good, the high spender, they tend to listen broadcasting. So they have a different profile than Yelp. And that's why it can benefit you guys, us getting people on the door at the winery, and then you take it from there. So this is one that they have no idea who you are. And never, for example, personally, I've never been to Colorado. But if you want to do, I'm going to start online. If I find you guys on early stages, that's how I pick it up. I don't want to wait until I get there to do, especially now, to hear, oh, someone told me this. But if you already heard about that, oh yeah, I'm going there, or oh yeah, I should have booked this, guys. That's when the trigger comes in. There's a movie, I think, with Will Smith. It's called Focus. Many years ago, I think it's about 2008. Yeah, it's more than 10 years now. They do a scam, and the idea is that during the day they keep giving the guys clues about a number 55, and the guy pick a number, and he see a guy with a T-shirt 55. Of course, that he remembers, and that was the whole plot of the movie, where it triggers people's mind. Question for you guys: it's being too quiet. Are you guys getting everything, or going over your head, or explaining really well? One of the two. Comments, suggestions? Things can be too complex to implement.
I'll just chime in and say I've used Canva, and for people that haven't used Canva, it's a really good tool. It's easy to use. You can design really good ads, logos, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then if you don't have to pay anything, and if you want to add a few things, you can do yourself, like upload your own pictures, or even can use free pictures from the internet. But in this case, because you have your own winery, we want to see your wine. Yeah, it doesn't take much. Like some ads I did with, I have a customer in another country now, that we literally took a few things. It took the iPhone for her. So all you need is just understand who you are. Tell me what's the idea. They are an Italian, it's called Villa Toscana. So an Italian island inside California. So perfect. So you visit Italy while in California. That was the whole premise of the thing. So it's about food and wine, the vision, the style of the Italian. That's what we stick to that. Don't try to be something that you're not. She said, oh, but I want to. People don't get it. So if you stick what you're good at, then you grow from that. Then it'll be easier for this. We did it for them. We add texting afterwards, because of she said, oh, I think only younger people text. We actually realized wasn't. Because people like it. Of course, we don't send a text about buy wine all the time. I said, give a break to people, give us something in exchange. So we send a recipe, we send something that very nice day, or before the Super Bowl, we did a very good campaign. It was a case of wine for $99. They sold in one day 23 cases. But it was the right moment, right time, right channel. It built up. It took us 3 months to get there. But as you're building, you get the people to the right time. Philip, Les, anything?
Here, I did have one question as you were going through the TripAdvisor setup. Can one campaign have multiple creatives?
Yes, you can do as many as you want, but bear in mind that it's going to be rotating.
Right. Okay.
And then you can evaluate later that. I'm glad you asked that. We did have the. Let me see if I have the.
And while you're looking, so if you do one large creative and one small, does that kind of prorate then your budget?
No, they just, it's based on the impressions. So they do.
Okay. All right.
I'm still can get breaking down by ads. We put 4 ads, and you can tell. Oh, here you go. Perfect. We select 4 ads for them. And then here they have 2 different sizes, number of impressions, who got the clicks. So the 300, 250, the second one got the most clicks. But then this one didn't get anything. Whereas the other one's a little less. And this has the highest conversion. Look at this. As the less impressions, these guys got the most click-to rate. So if you ask me what's the best performance, it's this guy. Because click-to rate shows me the highest conversion. So eventually, what could it do? It can pause these guys, these two, because it's killing impressions, right? It can literally pause them.
Oh,
Look, if they're not performing. And then the remaining ones now is going to be only this two is going to compete now for the impressions. So yes, you have full control of this. That's the beauty. Every week you can give it a few days to see it. If you don't like, pause it. So that's why when you have 3 months campaign, the first 2 weeks you can tell who's getting better or not. After a month, definitely you can tell who got clicks, who didn't. Cut off. And we do different sizes because I don't want to kill the different sizes, so I keep one each, right? Because depending on the page, but that's the minimum you do and let it run. And the size for me is just about how you get the pictures right? Because how you fit that looks well. And when we say don't get more than 20% of text, it means that it's objective, that the system can understand what's the percentage of the text. If it's too much, too little, get to the point. The hidden gem or Colorado, whatever you want to put, and get some flair. Tend to be normally related to who you are. We had one customer in Napa, the focus for them is about sustainability, biodynamic, and the meaning of the logo means honey. And you have bees on the property, promote the bee. And that's the thing. And the symbol, even the logo has a bee on it. So that's what you should invest on it. So work what you have, what you do what you can with what you have. If you guys don't have any more questions, I think you can pass the torch. I'll be happy to talk about other digital channels we can look into, for example, search, because there's intention behind and how we get into this. And that's another time Kyle and Cassidy can talk to me and get you guys, we can open more discussions, be in a clubhouse as well. Perfect.
Well, thank you so much for your time and information. We are going to transition over. We have some folks here from Harvest Host, and I think they have a slideshow as well. They will bring up here in a second. I think we have Ashley, Gracie, and who else do I see in here? One other.
And Rachel.
And Rachel, there you are. Pierre, if you want to stop sharing your screen, I think Ashley, has a deck to share. And they are here. They've just newly joined Allied Trade Partners with Cave. Harvest Host, I believe we have several members. I'm not sure how many here on the call with us here are members of Harvest Host. They are going to chat about their business and what they can do to help our wineries and vineyards promote themselves throughout the summer and maybe bring in some additional income for you guys. But once again, thank you to Pierre. If you want to throw your email in there, Pierre, we can help get additional questions to you and then also share that slide with the folks that are here today. So with that, I will turn it over to these ladies. Thank you.
There we go. I should unmute myself in the process. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I will be brief, I promise. So a little bit about myself. My name is Rachel Taylor. I am a part of the host relations team and deal mostly with the incoming hosts and a little bit more of the acquisition side as we, look to build the program on the host side. Which, our little tagline within ourselves is that, we're supporting one small business, an RV at a time, and really trying to really create that partnership between businesses and our travelers. So Harvest Host was founded in 2010 by a couple named Dawn and Kim Green. They had been traveling through Europe and were given the opportunity to stay at some vineyards and wineries and a couple different kind of farm outlets, and really kind of fell in love with the model, and were surprised when they came back to the States, that there really wasn't something for them here. And so instead of, continuing that search to find something, they created it themselves. And a little over 3 years ago, Joel and Mary Ashley Holland purchased the company and have just grown it tremendously since then. I believe at the time that they purchased the company, we were at about 600 locations, period, and about 30,000 members. Well, over the last couple of years, that growth has just doubled, tripled, even quadrupled almost. That we currently have, as of this morning, we had a little over 18,000 of our classic hosts, those being the wineries, distilleries, breweries, attractions, and then about 400 golf courses, bringing us to a grand total of about 2,200 locations, just a little over 2,200 locations, with over 150,000 members. And those members are required to be self-contained, meaning that they have everything that they may need within their vehicle. So they don't need restroom facilities, they don't need any kind of hookups, they don't need electricity, they don't need water, all of that they have with them on board. So really all they require is a flat piece of land, or relatively flat, that they can level out easily, to just park for one night. So a part of what our model has is, a really great opportunity to market your business at a very low to no cost. We provide the web page, we build the web page on our end. You provide, say, the description, all your hours, all of the details that you might need our members to know and understand. And then we take our time, energy, effort, and money on our end to build out a web page that is very specific to you, that has 5 or 6 photos of your location, as well as, your description, maybe potentially some reviews if you'd like that. As members do come visit, they will leave reviews on there, and you'll actually be able to leave reviews for members as well. It's a model that is completely no cost on your end, in terms of, all you have to provide for them is just a flat place in your parking lot, for one evening, just one night. They're not coming to camp. They're not coming as, kind of that vagabond in a van that you imagine under a bridge by the river, or any of that. 98% of our members have said in a recent survey that they own their RVs. So, these are people that really take ownership and pride in their vehicles, and aren't willing to, do damage to their own vehicles, let alone the area around them. One of the great perks is that you have purchases from these members. We suggest on our end that members spend at least $20 at each location that they visit. But what we have really found is, the average is about $55, but it can range, in great variety. And we have found too that a lot of our members do join wine clubs and really, spend time patronizing each of these wineries and vineyards that they have, come to love. And so, as a host too, you also receive a membership that you really get to, take use of if you as well have, a vehicle or a trailer of sorts that you would like to, make use of that membership, and you also get that, great word of mouth kind of marketing. You'll have those, posting on social media, sharing with their friends, going from location to location within the state. As of right now, we have 52 hosts within the state of Colorado, 11 of them being wineries, which I'm sure, some of your friends that, you can relate back and forth going, these people just came, they were really great. They joined the wine club, they did this, and I'm excited to see they're going to be with you in 2 days or tomorrow, and, kind of create that camaraderie within the kind of genre itself. And, I must say, we've got some really great members. They really love, being able to travel and really being able to see, various different parts of the country in a whole new light. So the RV community itself, the average income there is about $62,000. But in our recent survey, we found that over 50% of our members do have, a 6-figure salary. So these really are, those that are well off and those that do have the extra expenditure. We have retirees, we have families that are on the road full time, we have traveling medical professionals, all kinds of, variants in, profession or, stage of life. Over 54% of our members are over 55, and they're just taking their time. They're enjoying the various different sites. They may come to an area and hop from location to location within our membership and just, relax within that area. So they'll come, they'll go to the grocery, they'll stock up on their groceries, they'll buy gas in the area, they'll visit the local restaurants. If you have food, they'll spend more time eating with you. And they really just want to enjoy more of the area and what each location has to offer. So I do have, if this will play properly, I do have a very short video of one of our hosts in New England. It's a brewery, but they have seen some really great success over the last couple of years. Here, I'll just pull that up here. Not sure why. Yes. Excuse the little bit. I'll mute this for a second while we get through the commercial, and then we'll go through it.
I'm Lori Mitchell.
And I'm Wim Mitchell.
We own the Booth by Craft Brewery.
Booth by Craft Brewery came as a desire of wanting to open up a brewery back in the early 2000s. We actually sit on 8 acres of property right just outside of Booth Bay Harbor, about 1.5 miles from the ocean. And we decided to build this brewery here and got it started in 2009 and made our first commercial batch in 2011. And ever since then, between the kind of the lodging that we had here, which was cottages, and the brewery, and then adding the tavern, so we added the RV spots and Harvest Toast, we kind of turned into a little destination, a small one, but that's how we got going. It's been great. We were just talking about it that, out of lots and lots of Harvest Toast I think we've had, and 99% of them are just amazing people. RV people tend to be, I think, very inquisitive and genuinely great people, but they're here they know they're here kind of as guests, and they become great patrons of our brewery and our area of businesses too. And And then they just pass the word on, and we can see it, the number of harvest hosts growing, coming here, because they're all communicating. And that's cool. So from Bootleg Craft Brewery to all the harvest hosts out there, cheers.
Cheers.
See you on the road.
Safe travels. This is the true Americana.
All right, so what we have that is, the requirements of being a host, is really just to make sure that, we're staying above board, that we ask everybody to have a business license and insurance. Our members are required to take responsibility and liability for themselves and their vehicles and any damage that they may cause. And we just ask that, our hosts do the same. If there's something that were to malfunction on their end, that we want to make sure that they are covered and, really be able to take care of, any potential issues that may arise. We ask that everyone has products to sell, be it, wine tastings or, cases or bottles or any of that. We also ask that you have a website or social media presence. Members really do enjoy looking at places before they arrive and kind of having a semblance of what they may like to order before they arrive on the premises. We ask that there's easy accessibility and parking that is relatively flat. They can level out as much as they need to, but, within reason. They can't go from like a steep pitch, but, if you're dealing with a slight incline, they can, level out from there. And we also ask that each location has, employee awareness, that each member, if they were to call or, walk in, that an employee would understand, why they were there and how, they came to be there even. We, for the longest time, had members calling to, book their stays and really, interacting with, the staff and anyone that you had kind of as a point person for the location. But we have recently launched a request to stay program where all of that is centrally located within our website. That really takes out the hassle of having to deal with phone calls and really kind of field all the many questions that may come. We're still in the process of developing kind of a messaging platform as well within that same part of our website, that right now you can still send a message, if there are, specific things that you want them to know upon arrival, you can send that back to them. But, at that point, there is a phone number that they may call you, but that is all soon to be alleviated as well. So to close here, I've got just a nice little couple pictures of some of the locations that we have and, some of the things that our members really enjoy. They really love being able to wake up with, picturesque scenery and really being able to understand, the process of how different wines are made, et cetera. So to continue and, kind of move forward in the process of becoming a host, everything that you may need is located at harvesthost.com/hosts. And, our team here is always available as well to be able to, field any questions that you may have. So that's, I guess, all I really have. If there are any questions, I'd love to, Ashley, Gracie, if we have any other questions, I'd love to be able to answer those for you.
Rachel, if I were gonna describe this in one sentence, this is Airbnb for RVs. Is that a reasonable way to say it?
It's very similar, yes.
Okay.
I would say the main difference there is that rather than spending per night a fee so you don't name your price for the night. Instead, the purchase is, fueling the business. So goes directly into purchases at your winery rather than a nightly fee.
Absolutely. I get the benefit to the business here, that it's more than just space rental. But if I'm in a quick conversation and I want to say, oh, you should go look at this, Airbnb for RVs is a reasonable way to do it, or does that brand comparison rankle you guys a little bit?
No, it's a very general kind of generalization of, the business model. It's very similar, and how our website is run as well. It's a very similar kind of model.
Okay.
I will say too, actually, we had a winery, this has almost been a year ago, but we even had a winery last year that came on in the beginning of June. And by the end of June, they had seen a handful of visitors, but had 67 bottle sales within that month alone attributed to our members.
I do it. I've done it for like a year. I've got like 50 reservations and all I have is their phone number, so I can't switch over to your system. You need what I understand, you have to have the harvest those numbers, and I just kept the phone number. So I've got 50 reservations already this year. And some of them buy a bottle and some of them buy a case, and so you can't. You have to be satisfied. I'm satisfied. You have to be pleased that they're there. And just like that gentleman said, 99% of them are just wonderful people. So I talk to them and I get great reviews. My family don't like to talk to me, but all my guests like to talk to me, I think so. That's just, but they're just as pleased. They come and they just have a wonderful time, the ones that come to my place. Some of them, there's some people that's traveling around all the time. They don't have much disposable income, and you can't expect them to, they just don't buy very much. But some of them, they say are doctors and lawyers and stuff, and they buy a case. So you just have to be pleased with what you get, and it's just free, okay, for them. So the campers, I mean. So.
Phil, would you say you're averaging what, 2 or 3 bottles per reservation then, when you look at across all of them?
I would say 3 or 4 bottles, more like 3 or 4 bottles. Most of them buy 2 or 3 bottles. Almost all of them. Like I had 2 campers last night and they didn't buy hardly anything. I mean, that's a recent thing. I totally remember. But you just have to be pleased and nice I am to everybody, and just act like you appreciate everything that they do if they buy 1 bottle. But I'd say 3 or 4 bottles. So some of them buy a case. So.
And Rachel, I'm not sure if you have this data. I'm personally just curious to interact with our members as well, but you mentioned that there's 52 hosts in the state and 11 of them are wineries. Do you know if the majority of those wineries are over here on the Western Slope? Or if you can share that.
But I can pull that up.
I was just curious.
No, I should have thought to add, general location.
I think there are 2 in the West Elks. No, 3 in the West Elks, 2 in the Grand Valley, 1 in Cortez, 1 in Montrose. I was trying to use their map, but because I didn't have an account, I couldn't get deep enough.
So here, let me, I can share that screen and kind of give you a general idea of where they are.
And while she's pulling that up, are there any other questions about the program? If anybody else is involved in it, or?
I am curious, Rachel and crew. Is it like Airbnb where hosts almost get a little competitive about how good a host they are? Like chocolate chip cookies at night, or just little touches of being extra nice to get that 5-star rating. Are you seeing the same kind of thing on your platform that you see in Airbnb?
Honestly, no. Most of them are just really happy to have visitors, and outside of the pandemic era, I'm not sure what that's going to look like, if we're going to have more, not necessarily fighting for who's going to come where. But, it's not something that we've seen so far. I do know that we have an alpaca farm down in New Mexico that, will walk out with fresh baked cookies for every visitor that comes through. And, they're very gracious about that. And, members love it, but it's not something that's expected. It's not something, that you find at very many places. It's just something she loves to bake, and she wants to have that available for members as they come.
So I am dying to know if you can share with us who that Metro Denver winery is, because I can't think of anybody who has enough parking.
Let me see.
And just one note on your previous question while Rachel looks into that. I would say the competition is actually on the member side. We have so much demand right now that we're working really hard to get more hosts on the platform. So you would not need to be competing with your neighbor winery to get members. It's actually the members are trying to book, in advance enough that they can get a spot. So a little less, on Airbnb, there's a lot of inventory. And so that competition comes up. We have a lot of inventory, we have over 2,000 host locations, but we have way more members. So that doesn't come up as much here.
Very, very, very cool. Well, yeah, I'm blown away. Phil says he's got 50 reservations already lined up. I wouldn't have thought that.
Yeah, and they're continuing to come in. I mean, we get to see every request come through the system, and it's super exciting. Spring and summer are going to be huge seasons for us. But want to reiterate, you guys have full control over your calendars, who is coming, when. So even though you might get a lot of requests, you don't have to accept all of them, and you have full control.
So say a winery hears about this little phone call and says, oh, I need to do that. How long is the process to get on board?
So the current process is about 7 to 10 business days. From our end, once everything is, kind of shored up, once we have all the information, it gets passed over to our host success team, which really takes the time, to build these web pages and get all the information that we could possibly need on the membership side as well on the host side. So everything is, an easy transition into the process. And, I think at the moment it's right about 7 to 10 days. It could be a little faster. It could potentially, depending on the day, could be a little longer. But that's a really good average for us right now.
And I did see in the background, that was Sparrow, and they do have a big parking lot, which makes me think of Balistreri. Somebody should reach out to Julie. I guess I'll do that because they have a big parking lot too.
And then Ashley, I know when we were coordinating this call, I had put a bug, that's funny, a bug in your ear about a bug we have here in Colorado, and we're kind of keeping an eye out on the spotted lanternfly. And I didn't know if you had a chance to look into that, or I think we had chatted about you guys may have run into that in other regions with other hosts or other members about driving and having hitchhikers pick something up and take it to other areas as well. And didn't know if you had any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked about that. Gracie is our local expert on this. See if she's, her camera is off. Give me just 1 second to ping Gracie and see if she can speak to this.
Yeah, no worries.
While you're doing that, let me ask another question. And I don't remember who it was, but they had mentioned some issues with their town and zoning, and I think you mentioned that in one of your slides, Rachel, about zoning and insurance. How often do you run into issues with wineries or other businesses having problems with zoning? And do you guys have a process for helping to resolve those issues.
Absolutely. So one of the major things that we can do to kind of circumvent some of the zoning issues is because we aren't necessarily providing a camping service. You know, it's that we are, our locations are inviting a guest to stay one night only within the parking lot. So it's more of an invited patron than it is actually a campground. And
Right.
so you can circumvent some of the campground zoning issues there. And that's kind of how we, approach some of the insurance companies as well, for those that have more of the insurance type questions. But we do have kind of a packet that we've put together that can go to various different municipal ordinances and counties to be able to kind of explain the program, explain what some of the benefits would be. Some of the issues that we've had with various different locations is that some of the neighbors have become jealous, that it's not something that they can use within, the business model that they have. And so they don't want anybody else to benefit from what they can't. And so then they, take it up with the city or take it up with the county, and then, it becomes this battle. But we really don't see that very often. I want to say that there may be a county within Colorado or a city within Colorado that has made an ordinance against harvest hosts. But I think that is a complete one-off to my knowledge.
I think that's Palisade.
I believe you're correct.
I don't know if it's a full ordinance. I was chatting with Gracie right before this call. I'll be attending the Board of Trustee meeting tomorrow, that there's a conditional use permit up for Palisade for one of our wineries to apply for a harvest host permit. I can't remember exactly what's on the agenda because they're within town limits. Mm-hmm. And it's also come up last year as well. And it was the exact conversation you're bringing up of, does this fall into camping? Does this fall into lodging? And so, yeah, but I would, if there's one of those municipalities, it may be, it may be this one. So it'll be interesting to see how that meeting will unfold tomorrow. But these are great, pieces of data and things to be able to pass along during that meeting.
I have a
Giant
question,
parking
Rachel.
lots in Palisade.
I'm sorry.
I was just saying there's some giant parking lots in Palisade. It'd be a horrible waste to not allow this.
I have a question for Ashley, maybe Rachel. Because there is a big trend on Google, the RVs since last year. It's overblown. I think it's almost 50% up, including millennials on that too. So the majority that you guys said, is it more local or it comes more further away that people go booking on it now, especially the summertime?
Yeah. Actually, in our recent survey, we found that, more people were wanting to travel more than 900 miles from their homes than they were to stay close. Let me see if I can pull up that actual data real quick.
Right, because there is a huge demand. So I'm glad you guys on the same call. It's fun to see because yes, that's another way too, because there's such a limitation as well of the Airbnb that you guys get also the opportunity to go somewhere and you're still isolated socially, right?
Yeah. So in this recent survey that we did, we had 5% wanted to stay within 100 miles of their home, and 34% that wanted to stay within 100 to 500 miles, and then 61% wanted to travel over 500 miles.
Basically, almost pretty much everyone wants to go away except the 5%. Yeah.
I think a lot of that is a symptom of, the circumstances that we've had the last year, that everybody has been very localized and they really just want to be able to spread out where they're not comfortable with, air travel or, rail travel or some of that. They're very comfortable within their own vehicles and, still keeping to themselves mostly, but still being able to see a good part of, North America.
And it was very coincidental. We first heard about this a year ago, and Donnie Winchell from the Ohio Wineries Association first talked about it. And brought Harvest Host to our attention. It was like, wow, this is a perfectly timed introduction to great service.
Hey, Phil, to riff on this topic, can you tell where your 50 reservations are from? Are they all over the country or mostly Mountain West?
They're from all over the country. Seem like they come in waves. In the summertime, it's more for distant people. And then right now I'm having a lot of people from Denver and, or the Eastern Slope, right? And then also right now I'm having a lot of people cancel because, the last week or two because of the snow, they plan and then they cancel. And then and I make all the reservations myself. So that makes twice as many times they call me, when they call, and then I hope that they call me and cancel. I've had 2 or 3 that in the last week or 2 that didn't cancel. That's a problem, and I'm planning on them coming and they don't come. I mean, it's not trouble free, but again, I'm going to continue doing it. So that tells you that I like the system and everything, but they also call me 7 days a week. And sometimes, 7 or 8 o'clock at night wanting reservations, and I don't have to answer, but I answer all the time. So, it's not trouble free, but I'm going to continue doing it. And back on the amount of wine, I'm satisfied with how much wine they buy. So I park them in the orchard. So I have to physically take them out there and show them where they park. If you had a parking lot where they could just drive up anytime, 9 or 10 o'clock at night, that would be better too. But then they don't get the same experience as they do at my place. So.
You may consider using Waze in the future then to be easier for you.
And then another, no telling how many of them, it was the first time the Harvest Toast member. I mean, I was the first time they ever been to a Harvest Toast. I mean, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's fairly high. And then also, no telling how many of them had a temporary plate on where they just bought the camper. I mean, with this COVID thing, it's just tremendously. And then, as she said, they're expanding so fast that there's so many new members, and it was the first time they ever been anywhere when it came to my place. So
yeah, there's been an incredible surge in RV sales over the last year and a half that they're coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah, there's tremendous amount. It's just.
And I think great.
Yeah, sorry, I'm here. I just wanted to hop in and talk a little bit about this spotted lanternfly and what Harvest Host is trying to do to educate our members and kind of mitigate the role that Harvest Host could potentially play in the spread of the species. So as I'm sure you all know, the spotted lanternflies can basically lay their eggs anywhere, and the eggs themselves are pretty hardy. So right now we are working on, creating a bit more member education to, let our members know that, the spotted lanternfly is a huge problem, and that they need to be kind of cognizant of what that looks like. And, like if they see eggs, then they need to scrape them off and put them in the alcohol solution. We've been talking with Doug about spreading, once he gets the brochure going, the more official brochure, we're going to try and send that out to our members. We also have a bi-monthly newsletter that goes out to our members, and we have been crafting a blurb about the spotted lanternfly specifically that we are going to include in that. And then I also think just on the host side, as a Harvest Host, there are a couple of things that you can do to kind of educate our members from your end. So hosts can use the flexibility of their host profile, so they can literally write in anything they want, about the spotted lanternfly and kind of their stance on it and what they want Harvest Host members to do to, mitigate that risk right on their profile on our Harvest Host website. And then also, if possible, hosts should try and designate parking areas that do not have RVs parking under trees, which is another way that, just every little effort helps to try and not create a hospitable environment for the species. I also will note that, I know a big concern is the species is going to lay eggs on things like firewood and grills and other kind of recreational related items. This isn't so much a risk that Harvest Host members bring, just because Harvest Host members do have to be completely self-contained. They're not allowed to, bring out any grills or cooking, like outdoor cooking contraptions of any sort. So that is definitely helpful in, kind of limiting risk in that sense. But yeah, it definitely is a group effort between, hosts educating the members through their profile and through, specific choices they make about hosting Harvest Host members on their land. But then also Harvest Host is taking steps with guest education as well.
And thank you guys. We really appreciate
the
partnership and support. I was just going to say to the wineries, it's another great opportunity to inform consumers, to educate consumers, and not just about the lanternfly, which hopefully isn't here yet and won't be here anytime soon, but phylloxera, explaining to people why you'd prefer they not walk through the vineyards and talk to them about replanting. I mean, it's a great opportunity, I think, to share that information, and again, just helps to create a bond with those people, like Phil has already done. So,
absolutely, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Wonderful. Well, thank you, Ashley and Rachel and Gracie with Harvest Hosts, and a big thank you to Pierre for joining us today. This was a very informational 2 hours. I think Kyle will put this recording up on the wine board site, and if he allows, to share it with me, and we'll put it on our calendar as well for folks to reference, since there was so much amazing information shared this afternoon. I want to thank everybody again for spending their afternoon with us. A reminder, WineFest tickets are still available for Sunday. And I've also shared a little info on our Liquid Arts Passport. We're doing another round of interest if you guys did not jump on the first round. So that information is out there as well. Doug, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, I don't think so, but thank you all. Big thank you to Pierre. Big thank you to the new partners at Harvest Host. Thank you, guys.
I'm excited.
And thank you. And if anyone has any questions for Pierre, he did put his email in the chat. It's pierre@sommdigital.com, so you could reach out to him. And hope you guys can take advantage of some of that information he provided and get on TripAdvisor and Waze and some other things. And we'll see if we can get Pierre back to do another talk on some other topic.
Yes, he could rent an RV and go stay at one of your wineries.
Well, definitely.
Cassidy, if you learn anything at that board meeting tomorrow interesting with regard to Harvest Host and Palisade, can you put it on the Slack channel?
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one. Enjoy your afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Thank you.